I think I connected the... Ah, fuck it. Okay.
And now, we may begin.
Cool, what's up?
Not much. Good to be back from vacation. It took me a few days to get the rust off, but I'm back to enjoying the game and trying to push the rank up and stuff. How have you been?
Good. Haven't had as much time to play, but I've been making slow progress.
That's good. That's greater than
Holding
zero progress.
steady. Yep, I'm holding steady at around 39,400.
Mm-hmm.
Achingly close to Diamond 1. I've literally been 2 points away at some times.
Oh, I know those feelings.
Bracket. Soon.
Yep. Oh, both players with the amazing skins. So let's see where your fundamentals are and what to focus on. The meta hasn't really changed that much since our previous session, so it's not really like, oh, we need to update all your styles. It's probably going to be more about seeing where we need to tighten things up and iron out the basics, as is the pattern all the way up. Opening build is nice. One thing as a minor adjustment, certain Terran players will they'll walk their first Marines rather over here and shoot this first Overlord. So if you want a lower risk path, you can send it down here and then over into the production. That's going to be the most reliable scout for ZVT on this map. And on other maps you can think about a similar principle, where if you have both Overlords go a little bit to the sides, like this Overlord I think is pathed very well. It's over to the right side and then you can send it to the Terran side of the map. The other one you can do on a lower path and then into the production to get that consistent scout. Small detail, not a huge thing. On the map Mech Depot, there's a similar route you can take that goes behind their natural expansion and into their main. I do that for both ZVT and ZVP. So losing the first Overlord is pretty big. I think that'll help you a lot if you just never lose that. So you pulled off gas, taking a third base, droning up, making Overlords, Queens, drones. Excellent. Business is a booming. Hellion openings have been a lot more popular lately. I would say it shifted so far to the point where I face Hellion openings more than I face the double Medivac Marine, which is what we used to face all the time.
Yeah.
So let's look at a little bit of the responses to what you scout. So the key scouting breed would be that Overlord that goes into the production, and then also Ling speed finishes. Send 4 Lings up the ramp. What I like to do is just click them to go here, because a few things happen if you have 4 Lings run into the Terran's base. Sometimes they send their first 2 Hellions directly at you, and the Hellions will run past them at about this point on the map. If you have them attack move, the Lings will lose to the Hellions, so usually you want to move command right to the ramp. You don't want to go in the main, because if the wall is closed, then the Lings will derp out and the pathing won't be very good. But if you were to get the Lings into the natural and then up to the ramp, you could see everything. It's kind of a two-point approach to scouting Terran. You have an Overlord that you sack and some Lings that you run up. And that's the approach if you don't take Overlord speed early. If you get Overlord speed, then your 2-point of scouting is 1 Overlord from this side goes in and 1 Overlord from this side goes in, and you get a full scout. So against this double Hellion Cyclone type of thing, let's see what you do. I think Lingbane or Roach is pretty much fine. You just have to have units in time to defend. And you did get the scout.
Yeah, I was going for Lingbane.
Which is good. I think you can usually sneak in an Evo still against this. You don't need that many Banes. You need some to soften up the Hellions and Hellbats and stuff. And they are going for an armory. Let's see, you have 7 Queens, 39 drones. Pretty good. production. I think you would have a few more drones if you didn't lose that first Overlord. And then, just as a friendly reminder, every time opponent units move out, make 3 to 4 Overlords. That would help you a whole bunch right here, because this is the setup for a battle, and you identified it's going to be Hellion Cyclone. You're making units to defend. All that is great. The issue is, before the engagement actually happens, there's an opportunity to get a little bit ahead, and you have your defenses. You have a great army setup. Queens at the base, you have Banes, you have Lings, but you're supply blocked, so you can't really pound out some drones behind that. Save your Queens, you're taking the fight. I think it's fine to ram the Banes into the Cyclones. The thing with this push, if we want to think about Hellion Cyclone, is the Cyclones do most of the damage. The Hellions and Hellbats are just a buffer. And if there are no Cyclones, then your Queens are going to beat the Hellbats pretty easily.
Okay.
We could do this engagement. I think it would help to work on the Queen control a little bit. Because with your Queens, you don't really need to lose any. What you want to do, let's go to when the fight is about to start. Okay, there's fighting happening, blah blah blah. I think right around here. So you have your Queens on a hotkey, and maybe you're using F2 for army, that's fine. What you want to do is think about having your Queens with the most energy in the back, and you want to spread them out, like make a nice arc with your Queens, so they aren't taking splash damage from the Hellions. Whenever a Queen gets focused down, just click it back a little bit. You don't really have much that you're worried about here. You have one drone at the base, so they could go pretty deep, and you can just keep retreating with your Queens and either make Lings or drones. I think either of them is basically fine. It just changes the way that the situation plays out. So I'll take the Terran, and you can take the Zerg, and we'll try this again. Ready?
Okay.
Let's do it. Terran. You don't need to chase off creep. So do I have armory? It's almost done. Terran. Oh, they're just parading into you. It's fun. Hellbats. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get you. Transfuse. Goodness.
Oh, that was decisive. Now. Now, I actually held that initially.
Mm-hmm.
Guessing I just didn't make enough drones later. I was ahead actually.
Mm-hmm.
Can go back in because I think I don't know if that was where I.
Yeah, we can load in again. For moving up in the leagues, ironing out the early mistakes is the most important, but we can look at the rest of the game too.
That's strange. I have another one. Ah, it's the one like it create another replay of the one we just played.
Hockey smoky. Part 2. We got the early game, let's get the mid-late game. Jeline. Oh, it's a Masters player, that's a good sign.
Yeah, I actually
Moving on
beat him the game before. You can say tell him hello again. I beat him the game before that.
up. Nice. Oh, there you go. Hello again. Bonjour. Oh, he doesn't want to say hi to you.
I think-
Salty.
I know you. I know I can win every. Theoretically, you can win every game, but I really thought I could win this game.
Mm-hmm. So we can imagine
Yeah,
if you didn't lose this first Overlord and you kept your queens alive for the big push, then you would have more creep for the rest of the game, and I think you'd be in a really good spot to win. But let's see.
I actually get. We'll see.
You get what?
I get ahead, but you see and tell me what I did wrong. Goes eventually. He goes mech. I go muta. Doesn't have. I think that. But I think maybe just not making enough drones after that push left me in an econ situation which wasn't as favorable as it would be.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, you can make drones during the push if you're not supply blocked, because you have more than enough defense here.
Yeah, this sort of army really scares me, like because it can get out of the control so quickly.
Yeah. So one of the key differences between this situation we're watching now and when we practiced it was you traded your Banes off creep, so they got to split and take a really good trade. Mm-hmm. Whereas when I did it against you, you were defending your hatch, and it looked really easy. And a big part of that is just they can't split as well against the Wing Bane.
And I was also trying to chase the Hellions instead of just focusing the
Cyclones or whatever was close, yeah. Cool, so you have a bunch of Lings. The opponent is ahead in workers, but you can pass them up using the Lings to delay their third. They took a very late third base. So you have map control, and you're drawn in. Keep it up, keep it up. If the queens were alive, then your inject up time would be a little bit better, because your natural isn't injected, and some idle drones there. Whoops. So what's your plan for composition against this Spire? Nice. Spire's good.
Yeah, because I was really after that I thought maybe that was a mistake.
A nice kind of mixture for the versus mech scenario is Spire for a Mutaflock and a Roach One Evo Chamber for a big Roach Ravager army. Because if they go heavy on Thor, the Roach Ravager can beat that, and in this case, like 5 mutas would probably beat this army. Maybe a bit more than that. Bane speed, melee. Cool. I think Carapace against Terran is across the board a better upgrade. Cyclones shoot at a really fast rate, and so do bio units. So you're cleaning that up. I don't think that was a necessary trade for you, because the spines aren't going to pay off taking a trade that far forward. So that's a good principle to touch on as well, is Terran armies will often try and bait you back away from where you should take the fight. So think about Terran and how they bait your army when looking for a fight. So you're looking to defend hatches, defend drones, defend queens. And if you're not defending any of those, then they can basically run around to their heart's content. And you can just keep droning and making higher tech units. So that was a bit of an unnecessary trade. It would have gone better for you if you fell back to the spines and let them participate in the fight. So you see tanks.
Going mutas, the idea here was to make a large muta swell and hit him all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And the second he scans me, I move out.
Mm-hmm. He hasn't made a single Thor yet. I think it's probably better. Let's see how many you have. You have 11? Yeah, getting around 15 is really good. If you're against mech, I think it's probably better to focus tanks rather than focus SCVs. Because mineral income doesn't really matter that much for a mech player. They're all about the gas. So just jumping on the tanks immediately would probably be the best solution here. And that's what you're doing. Good. So you can kind of treat this like a Roach versus Muta, yeah. Just kill all the tanks. But they're going to mass a bunch of Thors, so you want to focus on ground now. So what are we making? You could go...
Yeah, that's, I think.
Hydras or Roaches. Lingbane isn't super great against Thors. It's okay.
On the one hand, I was really here. I thought I was way more ahead than I really am, because looking now, I have an economy that's really not up to par.
Yeah.
I guess that was because I was taking like not unfavorable trades earlier.
Yep.
So we
If
can,
the queens were
cut up.
alive, you would have more creep. So this would probably be creeped, and the other location would also be creeped. But you're not in a bad spot. This is definitely a playable situation. Swarm
Yeah,
host is another
totally.
annoying thing you could do against this.
I make a very silly mistake in a minute here, where I get the infestation pit and I think I'm going for hive, but I'm actually transforming my hatchery into a lair.
Oops.
Yeah, but I think losing these mutas in trades that weren't good enough was a major issue.
Yeah.
I know I have to get value from them, but
Yeah, you can
Want
get
to
small
pause.
gains. Because with a Mutaflock, if you swing in and get 3 to 4 SCVs and then swing out and then swing back in, it's better to keep it alive and keep it a constant threat. Because if you lose a bunch of mutas, then the Terran feels more confident in moving out on the map. Whereas if you kept the Mutaflock at, what, 16 to 20, whatever it was, then they're going to be really hesitant because you could just fly in and start messing up their production. So looking at their base now that you have the full vision, you can punch through turrets and stuff, but picking off depots, just whatever is low-hanging fruit in this situation. This is a weak point. That's actually a pretty common weak point. The area between the main and the natural, you could swing down from this top side and pick off some tanks. This depot here is exposed, and it's a double depot where they did a call down supply on it. You could probably take a couple add-ons here in the production in the main. So the tech lab, reactor, tech lab. Killing SCVs that are building stuff is really annoying for Terran, so that worker is exposed. The top side, they have 3 turrets actually. That's not really very good to hit. And yeah, I don't think focusing the army and losing, or the armory and losing mutas was a good trade. If the army moved out, you could probably kill these refineries on the bottom of the third as well.
yeah, here I try to go into swarm hosts, and once I realize obviously that the hatchery is that it's not a hive,
Yeah.
but I think it's too late. Okay. Yeah, I just die here. It's
Yeah.
fine. GG.
GG. So let's do some compositions versus mech. You can go Lingbane into Muta into Roach Ravager, or Swarmhost, or Hydra, and then into Hydra Viper. Lingbane is probably the ultimate composition against mech. Maybe with some Swarmhost to harass. It's a bit counterintuitive, but that's because Thor's kind of Broodlord, so making tier 3 units is kind of the sadness against mech. Alright, next.
Let's take a look at a couple of ZVPs.
What's this dude's league? People in the chat saying Diamond 1. Soon. Oh, this map. So this one is a bit unique in how greedy players can be on it. You get a pocket base, which means it's pretty hard to deal damage early to a Protoss, and they're very, very keen on going for air on this map, just because they only have to defend this one choke. So
Yeah.
the way to counter that, rather than like trying to bash your head into a wall, is finding a way to take this early. I usually take it as a 4th if I'm against someone who's going air. Uh-oh. A cannon rush. Why are they walling off this? What? Okay. So, do you know? Now you know. Gonna scout the other one? Get it. Get it. Defend. I think you can defend here.
I can.
Playing Roach.
The hatch will not fall.
Saved. Okay, good. So this would be a pretty good Nidus situation. The alternate would be going heavy in the Ravagers. If you look at the game state right now, you have 500 gas, the opponent has 400 gas. They're going for, what, some gateways and a base. They've invested 450 in cannons, plus the pylon is 550 here, plus a pylon over to natural, which is 650, and then another cannon, which is 800 minerals. So they can't really do too much to you for a long time. So your options are, do you break out of this and then do something wild like take a gold base or double expand, or do you go Nidus them and kill them? Because if you don't punish them, then they're going to get away with a transition and feel like they have a lot of map control for a long time. So you are making the Ravagers, that's good. Not losing any, nice.
But I usually when I move out like this, I don't know, it doesn't work out so well. But I don't know, like, keeping them at home obviously is wrong.
Yeah. I think this is mostly okay. The issue, I think, is more of not expanding behind it. Because by moving out, you're forcing the action to be here, which defends this base and this base. Because they have a mothership core, which means they're going to be really strong defending their two bases, but the mothership core is very weak at attacking. It doesn't really do much damage. So say ZDP. Defending cannon rush. Play Ravager. Bust out and pressure. All expanding, droning, attacking behind. I think getting the upgrades going really aggressively would be good with that, because if you take the 2 gases early against someone who's going for a cannon rush, then you want to be moving up the tech tree pretty fast. Another thing that I do pretty often is once I have the Ravagers I need to bust out of this contain here, I'll take Ling Speed and an upgrade, and then I'll pull 2 workers out of each of the gases. So I'm just making a little bit of use out of both of them, or I have 1 out of 3 and 1 out of 3, and that'll fix your resource imbalance here, because you have 900 gas, because you took those gases early, which was good in your ability to defend the cannons with a bunch of Ravagers,
yeah.
But it's working against you now since you made a bunch of Lings. And I don't know if we talked about Hydra Bane very much against Protoss. Have we done that?
Yeah, actually really like Hydra Bane.
Yeah, so the upgrade for that is +1 melee into +2 melee into +1 ranged and +2 ranged.
And I'm dead.
Wow.
Immortal good unit, you know?
Yep. Well, you have the 1,000 gas, so if we translated that resource into more minerals and more lings, I think you'd be pretty much fine here.
So, just to break out, did I get too many, or or was it okay?
Too many what? Ravagers?
Or just, yeah.
I think that was fine. It was just not focusing back on minerals again after you got the gas you needed to bust out.
So switch back and then expand quickly.
Yep. Shifting from a gas focus to a mineral focus again.
Cool. What makes you like? I'm going to go Nidus. I'm going to go between those different options.
I think a little bit of it is just mood. Because if I'm kind of grumpy, then I'm more likely to just try and kill him. Whereas if I'm more eager to be patient and take the more reliable advantages, then the Ravager bust out into an upgrade and a double expand is probably the highest percentage. So if I was playing against a Protoss who I thought was very good or a lot better than me, then I would probably go for that. Whereas if I felt like maybe they heavily overcommitted, or I thought that their transition was going to be very weak, then I would go for Nidus. The Nidus is going to probably be better against a Stargate. If they go for a cannon rush into Stargate, the Nidus is really good. If they go cannon rush into gateway units, then they're going to have a better chance at defending a Queen, Roach, Ravager, Nidus play.
Ooh.
And we have a nice non-cannon rushing game this time.
Imagine my surprise
When you see the probe?
when I see that they aren't cannon rushing me.
Oh, yeah. You have a couple different options for a third on this map. That's one of the things that makes this map pretty fun. You don't need to take that pocket base as Zerg. We could take this base. One of the expansion patterns that I've gone for a lot on this map is I'll take this outer and lower base as my third, and this is my fourth, if they're going for something defensive, like a third base with gases and air, because then I can be really greedy. Another path would be taking these as your third and your fourth, and then taking the pocket base as a fifth. And mainly that's sort of focusing on advancing the plot toward being able to beat up the opponent with Hydra Bane later on. This base that's on the low ground is still pretty close, so it's not that much harder to defend than the pocket base. And if anything, it's less abusable by things like Warp Prism. Warp Prism has a lot of room to mess you up, like here, here. They have this whole big cliff edge that they can work with. Some Adepts and Stalkers coming at you. Looks like you have plenty to defend in terms of lings. You have melee, lair, 50 workers. This is a great game state for you. Oh, did you see that? Did you see the sentries? Now we're supply blocked again. I think of all the games we've seen so far, the most important basic fundamental to focus on would be managing your supply. Multiple hiccups with that. We'll put that as your fundamental emphasis. Supply management. Text color, boom. It's in red. Now you can see it very easily.
Yeah, I have a tendency to go under than over and a bit swingy.
Mm. So always have the queens on hotkey too. This army is really bad against queens. The adepts, the sentries, the stalker, the war prism. None of their units trade favorably against queens. Maybe stalkers, kind of. Kind of, sort of. If the queens are on creep. Yeah, you're still in a great spot. 48 workers. Be droning right now. I'm taking a fourth base. Even though they're going for a bunch of gateways and a big attack, the fourth base is pretty low risk. Yeah, you're taking it in. That's good. Moving out could be pretty troublesome. Oh. Yep. Run home. Get that Hydra den. You have a Roach Warren. I think that's fine if you wanted to make Ravagers, but Roaches are going to be pretty bad here if they go for a big Immortal Sentry Adept thing.
Yeah, this is a game where I sort of lost track, I have to admit. I saw that he didn't take his third yet. I thought, okay, I'll just make the Link Bane and just roll him over.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work like that.
Yeah. Well, this is the only hope that the opponent has, is that you'll attack into them, because the window for them to attack you has pretty much closed. And if they were to take a fight down here, they would take a really bad trade. But if you attack up the ramp, they'll be in a really good spot. So let's talk a little bit about just the general ways to extend a lead in ZVP. I think that's a good conversation to have. Extending lead in ZVP. If you're ahead and they won't move out, you have, I would say the best thing to do is Bane drop the base with a cliff. So that would be the natural. This is the main spot on this map to Bane drop. So you put an Overlord here, you rally 4 Lings there, morph into Banes, drop the base with preferably +2 melee, but +1 melee it's still basically fine. It's 2 Banes to one-shot probes, and you can really wound the Protoss that way. Another way would be having a Bane run by. So you put about 8 Lings over here, morph them to Banes, and then once they take a third, you can run them in. Preferably when you're distracting them with something else, like if you did the Bane drop at the natural and then a Bane run by here, that would be great. The main army in ZVP usually is used to posture if you're playing a Queen-Hydra style. And the reason for that is Queen-Hydra is very fast, but it's very fragile. So you don't really want to be forward with your whole army if you feel like you're ahead economically. If you're ahead economically, your main army should be here on creep by your 3rd and your 4th bases, and then you can use small pieces to extend your advantage while you drone your 4th base and get up to 70 to 80 workers. So Bane drop.
Yeah.
Bye.
I have a really with the offensive side of the game. I understand, at least for my level, I think I understand the defensive part, but the offensive part always is less smooth to me.
Thank you, Cats, for the host. We're in the middle of a coaching session with Iceman. Diamond 2 Zerg, soon to be Diamond 1. So, yeah, being offensive with Hydra Bane, one of the main things that helped me a whole bunch was thinking about a Hydra Bane army less as a single fighting unit and more as a 70-30 split. So instead of having everything in one clump, kind of like your army is now, you sit back and wait for the Protoss to expand and take more bases, and then you have one of your Hydra Bane groups is on the Muta hotkey, and the other one is on the main army hotkey. And what you try to do with that is posture with your main army, so the opponent feels threatened, and they feel like they're accomplishing something by defending their forward base, and then your Muta hotkey group busts into a different base and messes up their setup. Because if we think about the basics of how ZVP works, Protoss units are just better. They're stronger, they have more hit points, they do more damage. They work better as a single unit kind of stacked up like this. 2 Colossi, Sentries, Immortal, that's really strong. But it can't really defend multiple things at one time. Like, Bane drop goes in, they have no defense. The main is pretty vulnerable as well, if you can bust in. Yeah, I think here, I've made this mistake too, where you get so far ahead, it's like, can I just kill them and end the game? And then that ends up bringing them back. Now they have a bit of a fighting chance. Vipers are really nice as a counter to Colossus, but Hydra Bane is still pretty good.
Yeah, I think I just got locked into the Roach Ravager thing here, which I think is the wrong. It's the wrong.
I think
wrong
it's still
path to take.
potentially usable. If you fought them in the midfield with a bunch of Roachling Bane Ravager, you'd be in a really good spot. But getting the +2 melee would be better than getting +1 ranged. Roaches have a really low attack speed, and Ravagers, it's pretty low. The +2 melee is just super impactful for the matchup. There is so many fiery toilet monsters. One thing to consider with Ravager Biles is not only where the army is, but where they want to go. So, Colossi have a really long range, and so do Stalkers. So if you can land the Biles a little bit kind of on the back line, then they're going to feel threatened by your front line, and they're wanting to retreat. You were putting them on the front line, which they can just back up and they don't take any damage to it. And I think we're basically dead now.
Yeah.
Two base Colossus.
Yeah, this was so old school.
Yep.
This is a game where I end up winning, but it's a third VP. But there was a moment of I was really unsure about what I was doing. So let's take a look there.
CP.
Yeah, this is a mass air ZVP.
Oh, this is a good map for it. The chokes are pretty narrow, and there are rocks that defend the fourth base. You can usually take that a little bit earlier than usual. So, based on what we learned last time about the ways to extend a lead, what is the Bane drop location on this map?
Well, I assume that in the natural.
Yep.
Thank you.
So you put the Overlord and the Banes here, and then drop where you pinged. That is correct. I award you 4 points. Okay, Gateway Cybercore. If they were to go Gate Cyber first and Chrono Boost Stalker, that Overlord would be dead. So you could take the path that your second Overlord took for your first Overlord. And then the second one, I kind of like sending it over and then down, where you can see this third base location. It's a pretty nice path. Nice, you scouted the Oracle. Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's see what you're making. Supply blocked again. Yeah, you'll be Diamond 1 if you fix the supply management. And then you can iron out the finer details. I've been there. That 25 Overlord, or sorry, 29 Overlord.
Yeah,
Okay, go.
that one. The one for me which I find the most consistently missing is the 44 one.
Yeah.
That one's a bitch.
Nice, lane drop. Okay, you're very ahead here, and you just scouted everything you needed to know for the match, which is, not only is there an Oracle, but there are multiple Void Rays, and there's a Forge, which all of these are very defensive types of things. And your drone count is pretty nice. You have 23 at this base. Taking a fourth immediately would be really good. You have your lair on the way. You have melee. It would take a lair and then go into a bunch of Hydraling Bane. You can go up to 80 drones. There you go, fourth base. Awesome. You can make constant queens too. Creep connect your bases. Put that as
My plan here is straight up Queen-Hydra and to smash into him.
Mm-hmm. That can work. So you have many queens. I think the best path for busting into an opponent with Queen-Hydra would be maybe breaking your rocks and their rocks, and then you attack here, kind of with an even ground engagement.
Yeah, exactly what I do.
Good. 73 workers. Business is a booming. That Bane speed. Going for ranged 1-1. It's good. I think the Bane drop is still pretty good to go for, kind of regardless of what their composition is. The only exception would be if they're massing a bunch of Phoenixes, then it's not really going to work. But here they made Void Rays, and usually, in this case, they're either going to put their army centrally located between their bases, or they're going to put it at the newest base, because that's the most important, has the most resource. Okay, Hydraling breaking the rocks. Good business. Breaking it, breaking it. Where are the queens? Oh, there they come. One fun little trick when you're pushing with the Queen-Hydra army. So Queen-Hydra push. Bring one Overlord to drop creep. You can micros so much better, especially with a Queen-based army, if you have a bunch of creep spread. And you don't need to make a complete highway. That's nice if you can do that, but it's not necessary. If your queens are across here, you put one overlord here, and then just make a big explosion to creep that just expands forward, and you have a lot more mobility, keeping the queens in front of the hydras. 17 queens. 31
Yeah,
hydras.
I actually missed 5 in the natural.
Oh. Oh, in your third, yeah. Okay, so let's just practice this just for... Because you said you win this game, right? I'm guessing
Yeah,
you probably win that
What
fight
would
kind
you-
of decisively.
yeah, and then I'm not sure, like... I kill his natural, but I can't push... I kill his third, but I can't really push into his natural, or obviously not up that ramp.
Mm-hmm.
And I start moving to corruptors, but it feels really wonky.
Yeah.
Maybe if I just send immediately...
I've had this happen a few times, so if you go for a Queen-Hydra push and you kill a couple bases but they're on the high ground and you can't push up, then rushing for 3-3. And also Infestor plus Burrow plus Pathogen Glands. Those would probably be the next steps. And just staying maxed and continue to expand. Because eventually they're
Yeah.
going to have to move
Really,
down
why-
and they're going to run out.
Why Infestor and Pathogen Glands? What, for the mind control?
Yeah. Neuroparasite. It ends up being a really, really big supply swing. You get 6 supply per carrier, so their army is even weaker if you're already ahead. So let's do this, because now I just typed up for you the list of what to do after you push
Okay.
in. But here, break the rocks, bring an overlord, drop creep, and spread creep, and also get your queens from the third base, and we'll just do the fight again. Because I saw you had kind of a salt and pepper mixture of queens and hydras all kind of in a cluster, but if the queens are very
Yeah.
clearly in front, then they can start to trade first and tank, and the hydras just sit behind and mow down the interceptors. So I'm going to take the Protoss, and you ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, go. Let's see how well I can A move. Yeah.
Yeah, overload speed must be a good idea.
This person got supply blocked right as you're about to push.
Queen should be decidedly in the front.
Yep. It's better for them to get there a little bit too early and take a little bit of damage than have the hydras and queens kind of mixed.
Come on, overload, move. And I'm taking bases behind it.
Okay. And infestation pit for hive.
Yeah. So just drop the creep in front of them.
Yeah, drop it and then have the queens lay tumors.
Okay.
And then the queens go in, and you need an overseer to see the traps, and the hydras in the back.
No, come back.
Transfuse the queens in the front.
Pull like the Hydra's back between fights.
Yeah, you can. Another thing you do is scoot the queens forward. I think it's okay to be a little bit traffic jam like that, though. Because you're killing all the interceptors, and I'm not really accomplishing anything. You want to keep making hydras.
Yeah. The creep really helps move the queens forward.
Cool.
Big difference.
So, let's say Queen-Hydra push. I'll put a reminder, get Overlord speed.
And go into 3/3 and infest or Neural Parasite behind it if I can't close into him.
Yep. Final dash. Ascension to Ire. CVZ. Alright. Fish gas pool. Opening looks good.
Cool. Yeah, he went.
Oh, fast Evo. Oh, I lost to this build earlier today. Oh, they went melee. The person I faced did Carapace. Is it going to be Bane Nest? Melee, Link Speed, Bane Nest. Oh, with the first Overlord, this is a really important thing for this map and some other maps. ZVZ, first Overlord. Check for creep at natural, then go to a third base location. So I usually send it to that same pedestal where you had it, and then as soon as you see there's creep, put it by this base. And then the second Overlord I just send sometimes up to scout for Lings or Banes, and then over to this third. And then if you have those two places covered, you can see all units coming out. So they're gonna surprise you here. Because that Overlord died, so you didn't see all these Lings coming across. Oh, nice! Wow. Wow. Welcome to Value Town.
Yeah.
Iceman is the mayor. We got Roach Warren. Making Banes. Cool. Cool, cool. Where's your other queen? Oh. Or you're just gonna punish him and kill him. Running around, waiting for the Banes. Nice.
Dead on aggression.
Yeah, this is a good bit of aggression. So you've made a pretty nice lead for yourself, and you see Roach. So what's your transition? Roach, Warren, Gas. We're dropping Evo at the same time. And take a lair. But making some more Lings is pretty good, because now you can defend. You're definitely in charge of this game. Are they going to do a super far Bane run by? Overlord's going to the third. Lair. See roaches. Clicking the roaches would be a nice touch just to see if they got the ranged upgrade. They don't have it yet. They're going for Carapace. Carapace is worse. Wow, they ran in and they're focusing a Roach Warren. Nope. Cool. You could transfuse that if you wanted to, I would say. It might not even be worth it. Just inject. You're so ahead. You're going to Spines and Ravager. Why so many Spines? Is it Muta? I'm in such a good spot. A nice time to move out we'll say ZVZ with opponent, sacks many units, leading into roach phase. Move out with roaches when roach speed is 50%. The reason for that is by the time you get to the opponent, you will have roach speed, which means you can pretty much always retreat home virtually unpunished. So with their setup here, being able to see the Ravager, Roach, and Spines would be a pretty good indicator that they're doing something very silly. Maybe they're going for mutas. You wouldn't really have to change from your Hydra plan, but you have a very nice roach count. You have 16 roaches, 18 lings. This would be a good little bit of stuff to just trade. Because if you're ahead, then the trades benefit you more than they benefit the opponent, even if it's a slightly inefficient trade. You're going for your fourth. Lings running across. Just made so much static D. You could also Overseer Scout. That's the other one, if you want to be more passive with your army. Overseer Scout the third to see what's up, because they did end up saturating. And you have Hydra upgrade. Two queens, say injects. Inject. Put it in bold. Tell your friends, tell your fam. Very nice Roach Hydra army. I feel like you should just stomp this. But oh, you should have just let the A move happen. It would have been all over. Go, go, go.
When it gets to these kind of massive Ravager armies, I get a bit... I'm not sure how to handle them.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ravagers are less effective than Hydras in an A move versus A move scenario, but they can do a lot with the Corrosive Bile. So finding the widest arc you can and then taking a trade would help. So the attack angle that you're taking, you're limited by the width of this ramp. If you were moving through the center of the map here, you have about double the area to move around in and be spread out. I think that would have been a better approach here. The counterattack is a good idea with some roaches, force them to divide their stuff. Didn't pay off this time, but still pretty good.
I went for Lurker here, which I feel should be right, but...
Yeah, the problem is Lurkers aren't super amazing at attacking. They're a bit better at defending.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, there was a point where you would have just won the game. And I think it was right here. Because you attacked into them a little bit with your Roach Hydra, and you were beating them, and they had to fall back to their base. Yeah, it's right around here. So from here, just A move, and try and box the groups of Roach Hydra that have the bile on them. But other than that, just let the army A move. Roach Hydra is like the most A move oriented composition that Zerg has if you get a nice spread. And you do have a pretty nice arc here. If anything, you could box the left half of your army and then click it a little bit further to the left, kind of into their worker line, and then just let yourself A move. You ready? I think this is just a win for you. If you don't retreat.
Okay.
Let's go. Look, they have Ravagers on the front that are morphing. And keep making roaches. And they retreated. Yeah, you won. That's how easy it is.
And now we know. So why did it look to me like I couldn't take that? Trying to think what I was reading wrong there.
Yeah, I don't know. You had I think you had the upgrade lead. Your composition was definitely better. And one of the weaknesses of Roach Ravager as opposed to Roach Hydra is not only do they have to build roaches, they have to spend the time to morph the roaches into Ravagers.
Okay. Been happening to me lately in ZVZ, and I sometimes hold it, sometimes I miss it. It's when they go for early pull, and then they pull links and hit with all the links at once.
Mm.
So I already make, let's say I make my first few, like 4 to 6 links. Now if I send them to scout, they don't have defense. If I don't send them to scout, I might lose to 19 drone all in.
Yep. So this is a good thing to touch on. Is what do we do with the early game lings? So if you want to be safe, so say versus cheese, 6 lings after 19 Overlord with 2 queens on the way. And then this map has a pretty long rush, so you're not going to know for quite a while if they took the second base. What I do is that same thing where you lean a little bit forward and check for creep at the base. If there's no creep, then buckle up and get ready to defend. With the 6 lings, I just keep them right here. So between the ramp and between the hatchery, and they're basically an escort for the queen at the natural to get to the ramp. If you have 2 queens on the ramp against cheese, the cheese just, it's going to be really bad for the player. So let's see what you do with your early lings. The first 4 to 6 lings aren't really going to deal damage in most cases if you're going for a hatch first build. So it's better to kind of err on the side of caution, in my opinion. So they're going for speedling into an expand. You're making 6 lings, great. Hold position is a very powerful command against cheese. So the more you can use it, the better in most cases. Maybe backing up the lings just a little bit. And now you know that it's cheese. So getting the queens to the ramp as fast as possible and dropping a spine in the main. The drones in the main is the most important thing to defend. You can lose the base and still recover. You have 76 gas, 220 minerals, you have more supply. You're gonna lose these lings probably, because they're gonna have a whole bunch running in. If you can't get the queen to the ramp, then put her between mineral patches. If they have a bunch of units, it's not guaranteed that you're going to get value from the inject, so sometimes it's better to not inject and just get the queen to a really good spot. So you're bringing this queen to the ramp. Cool. And you're putting lings next to her. Yeah, hold position is going to be your friend for these scenarios, big time. I like pulling a little bit off of gas here, because having a great number of Banes isn't that much more helpful than having a couple. There's hold position, nice. And now they're passing in workers and it's getting kind of dicey. And we get to experience the joy of playing ZVZ from very far behind. How fun.
Yeah.
I think going for a big Bane strike is the best chance you have here. So all of the gas, I would say, into Banes, because that's a corner they've cut. If they've gone for a bunch of lings and an expand and no Banes of their own, then they're usually trying to reach for something like roaches or upgrades or a lair. And if you can punch through, that would be good. So you put lings on the queens and the Banes go in. Cool. And we're pretty much dead from here. Was there anything else in the game that you wanted to cover?
No, but I was just wondering the early defense there, what I did wrong.
Yeah, we can look a little bit more closely at the movements you made versus the ones that you should have done. A really smart move sometimes is to go for queens at the ramp before injecting for both of them. Oh, the attack was before that even. Okay. So we don't know that it's cheese. We have the 6 lings, and they should be a little bit further back, so that you can put them on the ramp if you need to.
It's just delayed enough that I start making drones and like thinking about expanding.
That's
You
okay.
can see like my initial links are exactly as they start moving out.
Mm-hmm. One thing that's nice here is you have these 2 drones. That's 2 drones and 6 lings against 8 lings. You trade pretty evenly here if you attack move with your drones, and that would help you get your queen to the ramp. I think that would be probably the best adjustment you could make, because you have 22 drones to 14. Say you lose 3, you still have 19 drones to 14 drones, but you're going to take a much better trade and be able to get your queens to the ramp, because that's the most important thing that you can prioritize right now, is getting the queens to the ramp so they can trade out really, really well, and you can defend your main for a long time. Another step is getting 1 worker out of the gas. So taking a worker that's in the gas and making a bane nest with that, so you have 2 out of 3, and then making another queen in the main. So you'll have a queen to replace the one that dies on the ramp. Usually one of them is going to die. Let's slow it down. So let's say the drones attack. 2 of them are attacking. I think all 3 of those could attack. And then getting the queen to the ramp. Both queens. Maybe without injecting. Let's try that. Just for practice. So you don't know that it's cheese yet. And you want to get your queen to the ramp. If you see a bunch of lings, you don't need to inject. You can just send them to the ramp. Pull a worker out of gas and make a bane nest. That's lower priority than getting the queens to the ramp, but still important. And then making another queen from the main. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm a cheesing Zerg.
Macros.
Oh my god, they have the diva announcer. I'm gonna get you. Get to the ramp. Get to the ramp. Oh. Get to the ramp, go, go! Get the other queen to the ramp. Make constant lings.
And
I'm coming. I still have more stuff. It's not over yet. If you have ling speed, once you have 2 queens at the ramp, you can just go and counterattack with your speedlings. I think that's pretty good. Oh no.
like right now, they should still be on the ramp?
Well, if you aren't injecting, if you're not actively injecting, then that's the best place to have them. If you know that it's a cheesy type of game. You can also move them down. Once you have Banes, you can move your queens down and defend the drone line at the natural. Because now you have drones at both your bases. Oh no. Oh no! Ow. Rage quit. Get to the ramp.
Ramp, more prioritize getting to the ramp over injecting, pull 1 drone off gas, sack the natural if it needs to.
Yep. Your most valuable asset is your drones, and 2 queens on the ramp is the best way of defending that advantage. Cool. Well, I think we're right around an hour.
Yeah.
Did you get the recent replay pack? I just put it together yesterday.
Not yet.
I'll put it in the email, and I have all your notes. And it was good working with you.
Cool. And as always, thank you.
Yep. Go kick ass. I believe.
Yeah.
Later,
We
Dick.
will be there.
You can do it. Diamond 1. See ya. Nice. Okay.